Hey guys, welcome back to Saymoto Homestead. We are kind of laid back today. We had the opportunity this week to share with our local Rotary Club, and in getting ready for that, we asked on Facebook what people would want to know about homesteading. What questions would they have for homesteaders? Because we just didn't really know what we should share with these people who might not actually be interested in homesteading. So we got some really amazing answers, which was really fun. But a lot of those answers require just a little bit more feedback or explanation. So we thought, because they were such good questions, we would make some videos explaining the answers to these questions that were posted on Facebook. The first question that we're answering is in regard to soil. We had lots of extra footage that we filmed this weekend, and that was part of that footage. So I'm gonna go ahead and start that now.
We did want to talk about something today that kind of pertains to that, and that is soil.
Yes. We want to talk about having healthy soil.
Yes.
Because if you don't have healthy soil, you can't grow anything.
You cannot.
I think the first order of business is if you have what we had, which was very scraped, very dry, dead land, because we cleared and then it was a while before we built, and where our garden went actually had our garbage.
Yeah, it's like the worst
yeah.
resulting soil from the build.
Yes, yeah. So what we did was we brought in a bunch of wood chips, and we just layered as much wood chips as we could. You want to get 6 inches, is that accurate?
So if you're doing like back to Eden style,
yeah,
you want to really shoot for like a 6-inch deep bed of wood chips, which is a lot.
Yes, especially if you have a big garden space.
We did not do 6 inches by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
We did probably 2 to 3 inches over our whole garden area.
Yeah. And another thing you can do is cover it with like cardboard and natural organic materials. That will again bring all those good microorganisms and the life back into your soil.
The reason you want to do that, and again, she said if you have bare soil, because our soil was bare, like it had been stripped, is that soil is a living organism. Now, it's not like one single living organism, but there's a lot of things in there, and like any organism, it has to be covered to stay healthy, or it begins to die. Imagine like if we don't have skin, like our bodies aren't going to survive. So that's essentially what we had to do, is get that skin, get that covering back on it, so that we could start to bring life back into the soil.
Yeah.
I will say that if you do the wood chip method or covering it or anything, if you're just going to do that, it is a slow process. I would say you want to do that and let it sit for a year before you do anything with it.
Untouched, right?
Untouched.
Yeah.
Yes. Because you've got to give that soil and those microorganisms and and everything else, earthworms, like all those common things that you see in soil, you've got to give them time to come back in and start to condition that soil for you. Now, after we didn't wait a year, but there was a major difference between that first year and that second year after having those wood chips down.
Yeah.
Before you do any of this, get a soil test and see where all of your levels are, because that is going to go a long way. You may look at your soil and think, man, this is not good soil. Get a soil test done and find out, actually, it's not that bad. So you don't want to waste your time and resources if your soil is okay with all of this stuff.
Right. So if you have soil that isn't stripped, isn't dry, and dead, then there are some other things that you're going to want to do to make sure you have a good base for your garden. And one of those things is bringing in compost.
Yeah. So like Cass had mentioned, compost is a great way to get a lot of nutrients in there and to help reestablish soil structure, which is basically like how dense your soil is. Not all compost is created equal though. I'm gonna pause here and say, you may be thinking, well, why can't I just get wood chips and like till it in, turn it in, and create my own compost there? You can, but you definitely are gonna have to wait a minimum of a year if you do that, because what you're doing by putting those wood chips that are not broken down into your soil is that will actually bind up all the nitrogen that is in your soil, because the nitrogen is what those wood chips are gonna absorb, and the microbes and everything else to help start breaking that down into compost, which then it would be released back out. But you don't want to till in or mix in wood chips into the soil. If you're doing that, only cover.
Jeremy had said not all compost is created equal. You definitely want to make sure you have good compost from a reputable source. We have had, there have been lots of people that have had issues with Grazon and chemicals being in their compost. You want to make sure that that compost is clean and free of anything that might be detrimental to your plants. You also want to make sure if you're getting compost from someone else, like manure from someone, that it's cooled off. If you're getting horse or cow manure, you can't put it straight on your garden if you're going to plant right away. You have to let it cool. Those are hot manures. They have a lot of nitrogen in them that will actually burn your plants. So you have to let those sit and age before you can put them directly in your garden. Now, if you're gonna lay stuff and let it sit for a year, then you can put it right in your garden. But if you have plants or you're planning to plant quickly, you need to let those cool off and age outside of your garden before you put them in. However, if you have rabbits or goats, you can put that manure directly on. But if you've been on this journey with us, you know we accidentally got some hay that had some Grazon in it, and it killed our tomato plants. So
what Grazon is it is a weed killer that is used on hayfields. There have been so many issues on so many different levels that we've heard about this year about it getting into commercial compost, potentially like even the bags that you would buy at like a big box store, and our case, the food that we fed our rabbits. The reason that that is so popular is because it will kill a lot of the weeds that other things won't kill, but it also is safe for animal consumption pretty much right after you spray it. So there is no wait time. So it is a really popular herbicide that is put in there. The reason it's considered safe for your animals is because it passes right through their system. Their body doesn't do anything with it, which means when it comes out in the form of poop, which is now what we're using for manure in our garden, it is still in there. It still has its potency, and so it will kill your garden plants.
Yeah. So I think, honestly, in the season that we're in, it's better to make your own compost.
If you are able to,
if you have this space, make your own area to make your own compost, because at this point it's kind of risky, I feel like, because you just don't know until it's too late.
And do your research if you can't do that. If you need to buy it, it's always better to buy in bulk. I will throw that out there. Don't waste your money on bags unless you're just doing a really small space. But do your research. You know, there was a guy that advertised that he had compost out there. He just advertised on Facebook. I contacted him because he was selling it in bulk. We haven't had a lot of great experiences buying from other people, but he's a farmer. He's just doing it kind of to make a little money on the side. So I asked him, you know, is there Grazon in there? Can you guarantee that? He said, I can't guarantee it, but I have been using it for 3 years and have been selling it for 3 years, and I've never had a problem, and the people who have bought from me have never had a problem and really do enjoy using it and have good results. So that's kind of what I mean by do your research.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could send it off to a lab, but you're going to spend a lot of money getting that tested.
And you will have already
testing for
bought it.
chemicals is not the same as just doing like a basic soil test. So so just kind of, you know, ask around, ask the right questions. And if they don't know what you're talking about, if it was me, I would leave it alone.
So another option you have, if you're kind of strapped on resources or you're doing a larger area and you don't want to condition the entire area, you can condition the holes that you're actually planting in. You can dig your hole, put in cold manure, then put in your plant and put the soil on top, and even put more cold manure on top, and you can fertilize. You can make a weed tea, or you could buy commercial organic fertilizers or whatever fertilizer that you want, and just feed those plants that you have growing in that soil. Especially if it's already loose and not a soil that doesn't drain well, then you can definitely just feed the plants that you have in the ground. I do want to say, a lot of people I know put in the compost or put in a cold manure and don't think they ever have to fertilize again. That's not actually true. Every time you water, that fertilizer, that food does get a little bit watered down. So you are going to need to fertilize anyway throughout the season. So I hope you guys learned something about soil. This was just a very brief, basic overview. Of course, you can get into a lot more of the scientific side of your soil health, but we just wanted to give a quick, very basic answer. If you have any questions, be sure to put them in the comments and we can answer those. Also, if you have not joined our YouTube family, go ahead and do that now by clicking the subscribe button, and make sure you hit the notification bell so you know when we put out a new video. Thanks for joining us. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and be blessed.